G'day legends, and welcome back to Unpopular Aussie Opinions, the only corner of Australian sport that still calls a spade a bloody shovel, even when the bloke holding it used to be a premiership hero. Today the Trent Merrin saga has gone from disgraceful to downright savage, and what I'm about to tell you is going to leave half of you speechless and the other half absolutely filthy that nobody in the mainstream media has the spine to report it properly. Less than 48 hours after Trent Merrin stood in Burwood Local Court and pleaded guilty to stealing $106,000 from the children's cancer charity that carried his own name, the former NRL enforcer turned convicted fraudster Trent Merrin was rushed to hospital with a broken jaw, fractured eye socket and facial injuries so severe that police had to postpone his formal interview. And the person who allegedly put him there? His own wife, Sally Merrin. That is right. While the rest of the footy world was still pretending this was just another sad retirement story, police were called to the couple's multi-million-dollar home on the New South Wales Central Coast just after midnight on Wednesday. Neighbours reported hearing screams, glass smashing, and what one witness described as the sort of thudding you only hear on a footy field when someone gets cleaned up. When officers arrived, they found Merrin on the kitchen floor, barely conscious, covered in blood, with his wife standing over him, still holding what police documents describe as a heavy crystal decanter. Sally Merrin was arrested at the scene and charged with assault occasioning actual bodily harm, reckless wounding, and domestic violence-related property damage. She was refused bail and will face Gosford Local Court this morning. Trent was taken by ambulance to Gosford Hospital, where he remains under police guard while surgeons try to piece his face back together. Now, before the White Knight Brigade floods the comments telling me to show some compassion or you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, let me make one thing perfectly clear. Nobody deserves to be beaten half to death in their own kitchen. Full stop. But when you have spent the last 4 years systematically robbing sick children, lying to your wife, lying to your mates, lying to the public, and then humiliating your family by having your crimes splashed across every newspaper in the country 2 days earlier, you have forfeited the right to be treated like some innocent victim. Because here is the part that every footy journalist is too scared to say out loud. This was not a random act of domestic violence. According to the police fact sheet that has already been leaked to a couple of Sydney newsrooms and which I have seen with my own eyes, Sally Merrin told attending officers, and I quote, "He stole from babies with cancer and thought he could come home and play happy families. I snapped." She allegedly screamed at police, "Do you know what he did with the money? Private school fees for our kids while other people's kids couldn't get a teddy bear on the cancer ward." One officer reportedly had to physically restrain her from going back for round 2 while paramedics worked on Trent. And do not for one second think this is the first time violence has erupted in that house. Court documents from Trent's guilty plea reveal that Sally only discovered the full extent of the thefts 3 weeks ago when Westpac fraud investigators turned up at the family home with a search warrant. Neighbours say the fighting has been non-stop ever since. One told me yesterday, "We thought they were just having loud marital blues. Turns out she was finding out her husband was a grub who robbed dying kids." Now let us talk about the sheer hypocrisy pouring out of the NRL community right now. The same blokes who were on radio yesterday saying, "Let us not rush to judgment," when Trent Merrin was charged with fraud, are suddenly falling over themselves to call this tragic and a private matter. Private matter? The man stole money meant for children fighting for their lives, and now his wife has allegedly tried to rearrange his face with a 2-kilogram piece of Waterford crystal. There is nothing private about any of this anymore. And spare me the tired old, "she should have just left" line. This is a woman who stood by him through every suspension, every late night, every move between clubs. She organised the charity golf days, she smiled for the photos with the sick kids, she believed her husband when he said the foundation was changing lives. Then she finds out the only life it was changing was his, with European holidays and bottles of Grange at $2,000 a pop. I'm not justifying what she did, but I'm saying any decent human being would lose their mind in that moment.
The most gutless response has come from the NRL itself. A league spokesman put out a statement yesterday saying they're monitoring the situation and offering support to all parties. Support to all parties? You mean the same league that still hasn't stripped Merrin of his premiership ring, still hasn't banned him for life from any official functions, still hasn't demanded he sell that ring to pay reparations to Westmead Children's Hospital, the same league that let this grub set up a charity with zero oversight because he was a good bloke with 289 games next to his name. This is what happens when you build a culture that tells footballers they are untouchable gods for 15 years and then cuts them loose with no education, no financial guidance and no accountability. You end up with broken jaws, shattered families and a children's hospital wondering where its 106 grand went. Trent Merrin is lucky to be alive today. He's lucky that a candor didn't land 2 inches higher, and when he eventually fronts court for sentencing in March, the magistrate is going to look at a man with a face held together with plates and screws and still send him to jail, because stealing from sick children is 1 week and copping a hiding the next doesn't wipe this slate clean. As for Sally Merrin, the courts will deal with her. Whether she walks out with a Section 10 or does time herself, the footage of her being led away in handcuffs while her husband is stretchered out will haunt NRL headquarters for years. This is not a love story gone wrong. This is the final, brutal chapter in the complete collapse of a man who thought the rules never applied to him, right up until someone he trusted finally applied them with a crystal decanter to the head. Drop your take below. Am I being too harsh on a man who just got his face caved in? Or is this simply the reckoning that is coming ever since he put his lifestyle ahead of children with leukemia? Like if you're glad the truth is finally out, smash subscribe if you're new, and turn on that bell because the next story we're dropping is going to make this one look tame. This is Unpopular Aussie Opinions, and we'll catch you in the next one.